After playing it safe the last couple of months, Nintendo is back with a genuine surprise for their Nintendo Classics app. I'm of course talking about Mario Paint, the game that came bundled with the Super NES Mouse. Believe it or not, this is one of the rare Nintendo games to never get ported to another console. That is, until now. Yeah, that's cool news. But is this game actually worth playing? To answer that question, I decided to flip through the pages of Electronic Gaming Monthly, Total, Computer and Video Games, and more classic magazines that reviewed Mario Paint when it first came out. So go and get your art supplies ready, because this is going to be a surprisingly divisive episode of Nintendo Classics Review Crew.
It was quiet, except for the cows. Then a rock fell from the sky, so I sat on it. But it was really a spaceship. Then aliens surrounded me, and I could actually read their minds. Should we fry them or boil them? Whoa, so I pushed a button and made them disintegrate. Okay, so I made it up. Then I made it all happen.
Mario Paint. Draw and make music. Only on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
From fighting games to platformers to role-playing adventures, we've seen just about every possible genre come to Nintendo Classics. But one thing that we haven't looked at is Nintendo's obsession with add-on peripherals. This was a big part of Nintendo's 8-bit strategy, with everything from a little toy robot called R.O.B to the Zapper light gun to the invention of the Power Pad. While certainly memorable, Nintendo had this bad reputation of launching these accessories and then almost immediately abandoning them. By the time the Super NES rolled around, the critics were hip to Nintendo's jive. We saw that in early 1992 when Nintendo launched their ill-fated Super Scope, a 16-bit light gun that came with a minigame compilation that was universally panned by the critics at the time. Learning their lesson, Nintendo chose to bundle their next accessory, the Super NES Mouse, with a much better game, Mario Paint. Sure, it could be viewed as another minigame collection, like the Super Scope 6, but it was more than that. The various modes allowed you to exercise your creative muscle with everything from drawing and painting to music composition. It also came with a fly swatter minigame, but the real star here was the art that you make. And that, more than anything else, is why Mario Paint is so fondly remembered. But what do the critics say? Were they totally won over by the mouse accessory? Believe it or not, Mario Paint is one of the most polarizing Super NES games on the Nintendo Classics app. There are critics that loved it, critics that hated it, and basically everything in between. As we so often do, let's go ahead and start with Electronic Gaming Monthly, who gave this art program an average score of 8.25 out of 10, enough to earn the Game of the Month distinction in issue 39. Fake Ninja Sushi X was impressed. Wow! It's amazing how quickly Nintendo responded to the other video paint programs out there. This game has a few especially redeeming qualities, mainly its excellent mouse and the overall cuteness of its design. Creating your own Mario Land scene can be fun at first, but your imagination keeps it going. Martin ended up being the lone EGM critic to give it a 9, noting that while this card is not what you would call a video game, I found it to be a blast. The creative possibilities are endless. Making your own animation and music combo is by far the most fun. Tons of humorous animations are featured within the different studios. The only disappointment is that you can only save one thing at a time. Now, it's probably worth mentioning that EGM's score is actually on the higher side of the average. For example, GamePro ended up giving Mario Paint an exceptional 4.5 out of 5, while Super Pro went with the same 90%. The freshly rebooted Electronic Games magazine ended up going one tick higher, giving the game a 91%. That's not only the same score that we got from Computer and Video Games, but it's also the highest score of the bunch. Tim Boone sums it up perfectly. Right, let's face it, this is the sort of cartridge your parents are going to buy you for Christmas because you're a bit crap at drawing and they think that it'll do some good. Well, actually, they'd be right. But luckily, Mario Paint is also an excellent laugh. Mario's all over the place to help you along, and some of the effects you can create on the Super NES are superb. Initially, I found it quite difficult to get into, but Mario Paint grows on you, and the better you become, the more you want to learn. Mario Paint is one of those cards you don't think will ever come out of its box, and before you know it, you're using it all the time. Like I said at the top, the reviews for this game are all over the board. N-Force gave it a score of 82%, while Super NES Buyer's Guide went with a straight 8 out of 10. Nintendo Power went with a 4 out of 5 initially, but then raised it to a 4.5 when they re-reviewed it 50 issues later, but we're not going to count that. After that, we're basically in freefall territory. Nintendo Magazine System was the first sign of trouble, giving the game a 65%. A fun and enjoyable paint package that comes with an excellent mouse. The problem is that the novelty wears off fairly quickly and it's very expensive. As we continue our descent, we see Super Play give Mario Paint a woeful 55%, the exact same score that Control gave it in their final issue. However, if you're looking for the absolute lowest score, then look no further than Total, the UK magazine that went all the way down to a 48%. They complained that it has too few colors, crap resolution, no zoom function, and even a limited music maker. What about the lifespan? Well, even the youngest Mouseketeer will soon outgrow this most basic art package. They called it a simple art and music package, which is great for 6-year-olds with 70 quid to spare, but a massive disappointment to everyone else. Look, I don't know if it's because it cost more or because the microcomputers had already been doing the art program for years, but it's clear that the British critics gave much, much harsher scores compared to the American critics. Sure, CVG and Super Pro gave it top scores, but the British press gave it an overall average of 69%, while their American counterparts went with a much more respectable 85%. Overall, Mario Paint earns a 76%, which is probably lower than you were expecting. This is the kind of game that's almost critic-proof, especially now that it's been ported to the Switch. Just boot it up and have some fun. That's what it's there for.
Mario Paint でお絵かきするよ。こんなこともできるし、こんなこともできるし、マリオペイントで音楽するよ。こんなことも、こんなこともできるし、こんなことも、こんなことも、こんなこともできすぎちゃって。
芸術だよ。マリオペイント。
Hey, thanks for watching me break down these classic reviews. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new episodes just like this every time classic games get added to modern consoles. We have a whole playlist with an episode for every single game in the Nintendo Classics catalog. So go ahead and check it out if you want. Now, here's the question I have for you. What is Nintendo's best accessory? I'm talking about things like the Power Pad or the Zapper or, yes, the Super NES Mouse. Let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we're going to be back later this week with more reviews. While you wait for that, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.